Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Here we're starting again. So this is the anatomy class number 2, and the most popular topic by vote was the digestive system. So there's a lot to say about the liver, the gallbladder, and the lymph, and it kind of goes together. So that'll be a lot of the topic tonight. I want to know, did people read the liver chapter of I Am Joe's Body? Alexis is shaking her head. Good, good. That's going to be useful because I'm not going to go over that material again because that really covers it well. Now, that's not always going to be the case, but for the liver, that's a really good entry. So when there is homework for a class, like for number 3, and one of the things is I Am Joe's Body, I would at least read that one. Because if you don't know anything, that will give you a good foundation to build on. And I've made some changes to the original text to update it where it was wrong and so on. So it's a little bit better than what it used to be. So that's good. I think we've got this going here. So I'm going to do a little ecumenical prayer here to start. This will get me tuned in. So Father, Mother, God, I ask for a clearing. Ask for clearing physically, imaginally, emotionally, mentally, unconsciously. So only the highest God and the greatest loving is present. We ask for this in love and understanding, keeping clear our individual destinies on the planet. And we ask for the highest good for each one here to come forward in joy and gratitude and celebration. And for this and all the other blessings, we give our thanks. And so be it. So we're going to go right into a screen share here. And I'm going to practice my screen sharing skills here. I think it's this. No, not that. It's now we just did this once and it worked pretty good. It's this, yeah, this thing. Now why doesn't it show up where it's here? I'm seeing it. It must be this. Okay. Now, can you see this Wikipedia page? Say yes if you can see the Wikipedia page.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, good. All right. And then we're going to scroll down a little bit here. I have to move things around to segments. And if I'm careful here, I guess this is what it is. So over here on the right, you can see this nice rotating animation of the liver. So it's the best one I could find. Can everybody see that? It's probably a little small. And can I make it bigger? I can make it bigger. Can anybody not see that? Okay. All right. So this is quite useful. And now I guess the thing to do here is, whoa, I've destroyed my thing there. I was going to have you guys read this to us, but we can't do both. But I have it over here. Okay, so as you watch this rotating animation, or if you wish to, close your eyes and visualize it rotating, which you're welcome to do. I'm going to read you a little bit of what else is on that page, since I'm the only one who can see it. In human anatomy, the liver is divided grossly into 4 parts or lobes: right lobe, left lobe, the caudate lobe, and the quadrate lobe. Seen from the front, the diaphragmatic surface, the liver is divided into these lobes: right lobe and left lobe. And some of you will know something about that. Viewed from the underside, the visceral surface, the other two smaller lobes, the caudate lobe and the quadrate lobe, are also visible. And of course, what I just read is the liver described from the language of the left hemisphere. It's just interested in, the left hemisphere is just interested in facts. It's not interested in metaphor. It's not interested in color or images or much of anything else but the names, the facts, and the categories. So while you're looking at this rotating animation, and if you want to, I invite you to close your eyes and see if you can visualize the liver rotating in the opposite direction. And some of you will be able to do this, and for others, it will be more challenging. But for those able to do this, you are now tapping into the great power of the left hemisphere. And what inspires the left hemisphere, the right hemisphere, is metaphor and simile and images and enthusiasm. And I wanted to say something about that here. So I have a comment on that. The great talent in your right hemisphere is your ability to visualize body parts and to imagine colors for conditions. For a large fraction of you, corpse dissection images and rotating animations won't be as useful as your own ability to visualize. What supports the right hemisphere making vivid images of organs and structures is metaphors. Metaphors are the poetry of anatomy and physiology. Metaphors support your understanding how disturbed organ conditions reflect disturbed conditions on levels of the psyche above and below the frequency of the waking mind. The great talent in your left hemisphere is your ability to ask questions and then to formulate a better question. And if you can get both these working together, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere as teammates, then you have an unbeatable pair, an unbeatable team. Any questions before we leave this topic? Okay. Oh, I see Michelle is here. Hi, Michelle. Okay. Now, we're still looking at this. Oh, maybe I'm covering it up now. Okay. So here's the next part. It doesn't show too well on this. Actually, when you see the back of the liver here, the gallbladder is not shown here. But the gallbladder kind of hangs down from the middle there. And I have an image of that I want to show you. And I have two images I like. One is this. Okay, I think you guys can see this now. This I think I can put down. Okay. I need to move this. Yeah. So there's that. There's that. Okay. And that's more like where the gallbladder is, because we're partly talking about the gallbladder here. I'm not doing that at the moment. And here's the other one. Here's a little bit more about how the gallbladder is connected to the liver. And these are kind of the bile ducts and the micro bile ducts, I suppose. When I started looking at the bottom of the liver, the first image I had, the first metaphor I used, was that the bile duct seemed to be like the center of a flower, like the liver was an upside down flower, and the bile duct was kind of like the center of the flower. But in preparing for this class, I'm wondering if one of you can suggest a better metaphor for how the liver, how the gallbladder kind of hides away inside the liver there. Many of you have a better metaphor than a flower for how the bile appears, the gallbladder appears.
I've honestly never thought of a metaphor for the shape of how these things work before. But if I'm thinking about it, and looking at some of the metaphors that we use for gallbladder, when looking at like the energetic physiology, in English we'll say things like, the gall of that person, right? Like the word gall is supposed to be associated with like brashness and like you know um courage, even to some extent. And this is like the opposite of that, right? Like the gallbladder literally hides kind of
Yeah.
underneath. And so it's kind of funny to me, the juxtaposition between what we use it for and how it looks physically here. I hadn't really thought about that.
Yes, hiding is the first image that comes to me too. So we haven't really improved on a metaphor for the flower other than hiding, but we're going to come back to this in a bit there. So I'm going to stop sharing and minimize this. Now I don't think you're seeing anything there. Okay. All right. So we talked about that. So can any of you explain to the rest of the people what the laugh zones are in laughter yoga? Does anybody know what that is? Maybe you do, maybe not. Nobody knows. Okay. Well, on any of these questions, feel free to just blurt it out. You don't have to raise your hand. We're few enough. We don't need to use the hand raise thing. And there's no grade for class participation. So if you don't respond, you're not losing anything. So you can only gain by speaking up. There's nothing to be gained by keeping quiet when I ask a question. So the idea of the laughter zones, I think, goes back to David Tansley and his Radionics and the Subtle Anatomy of Man, a famous radionics book. And he was saying basically that the etheric body is somewhat segmented. And he segmented it into 5 zones, and he correlated this with the vertebra. But for laughter yoga, they just use from the neck up, which is the he. That's the laughter of that zone. And the chest area is the ha. And then the laughter zone under the diaphragm, left and right for the digestive organs, is hey, like H-E-H. And then from the belly button down to the feet is a laughter zone of ho, like the Santa Claus laugh. And all of the digestive organs, left and right, are in that hey zone. And so that's quite useful because you can use those zones to locate problems. Like I learned recently how to look for stress from the priority of the client's own higher guidance. And I just said, well, let's just stand over their head and look at the laugh zones and see which laugh zone has the most stress and start there. And that worked. So there's lots of uses for this. And of course, that's related to visualizing these laugh zones. You can look up laughter yoga, but we're not going to talk more about it now. We're going to go towards the blood and the lymph here. So all the digestive organs live, move, and have their being within the lymph, which is our, you can think of as our interstitial fluid also. So why do we want to emphasize this? Most people believe our organs live only in the bloodstream because blood brings oxygen. But the other major biochemical reality is pH. So our bloodstream provides all our cells and organs with oxygen. And the pH of the bloodstream is out of our control. Nature handles that for us. It handles it through our breath, believe it or not, and through our kidneys, believe it or not. And we're not going to talk more about that now. But what nature doesn't control automatically is the pH of our lymph. And I'm going to ask the class a question again. Who can tell me what they know about the pH scale? Does anybody know what pH stands for, or what the scale is, other than Alexis?
Yeah, the higher numbers are alkaline, lower or acidic.
Correct. Very good. Very good. And you know what the normal pH of the blood is?
I think it's 7.2.
7.35 to 7.45. Yeah. Yeah. So on our right side, on the yang side of our digestive organs, we have the liver, and let me start that over again. So let's go back to water. So water, plain old good water, has a pH of 7.0, which is neutral. So our bloodstream's a little more alkaline than water. But our lymph, nature's plan for our lymph is for our lymph to be 6.4, which is a little more acid. So we can't control the pH of our blood, but we can control the pH of our lymph that all our cells and organs live in. And who in the class, besides Alexis, has seen online or in any holistic health book a picture of a fish in a fish bowl, or even a picture of a fish jumping out of a dirty fish bowl? Has anybody seen such a picture? So these pictures are very common if you search for them, and they are very common in the topic of alkalinization, alkalizing the body. But a lot of the information and the science behind what's on the internet often isn't that accurate. And I believe that the science of that goes back to the 1930s and to Carrie Reams, who we're going to just mention this evening. So what do we want to say here? So the blood pH is stable, but the pH of our lymph is under our control, and we control the pH of our lymph by what we eat and what we drink. So does anyone know the significance of the pH of the lymph? Okay, it's a more esoteric question for sure. Let me ask a simpler question. Can anyone in the class, including Alexis, can they tell me any famous science experiment that you saw in junior high school or high school about minerals and acids? Anybody remember anything like that?
Are you referring to baking soda volcanoes?
Tell us about
Or
what's that
Mentos
about?
in a Coke bottle? I mean, when we take something that is very base or very alkaline and we put it into something that is very acidic or vice versa, then we're going to create a chemical reaction, yes?
Yes. And of all of this, and you mentioned Mentos. If you haven't seen it, you want to go online and look up Mentos and vinegar or something like that, or Mentos and soda pop, I think is what, Mentos and Coke, I think is what they started.
You do it with a Diet Coke and you put it
Yep.
in there and then it explodes, right?
It has a dramatic reaction because the phosphoric acid is acidic and the Mentos are alkaline. Yes. So a less dramatic reaction happens with another famous experiment that Alexis probably knows, and maybe some of you have seen too. You take an egg, a fresh egg, and you put it in a cup of vinegar and you leave it overnight, the next day, the eggshell is soft. So minerals tend to be alkaline, and acids have a pH that degrades the structure of the minerals, makes them softer and more accessible. And this is what happens in our body. And nature's plan is for the pH of our lymph to be 6.4. And that's not only the optimal pH for the liver to use oxygen, big deal, very big deal. It's also the optimal pH for the liver to use minerals. When the pH of the lymph goes either more acid or more alkaline than 6.4, the ability of the liver to use calcium and many other minerals is degraded. So the closer your pH is to 6.4, the better your liver operates and the better your whole digestion system operates. So the request was to talk about digestion. And this is the biggest foundation of digestion that I've ever heard about. So it's a very big deal. You can read more about this. I'm going to drop this subject pretty soon in the book, Befriending Your Biology, which is a book that I wrote last year. And so you can pursue that if you're curious. I'm not going to get more into it now. Okay. So moving along, any questions? So we talked about that, and we did that, and we talked about that, and calcium. Right. So how? Yeah.
Because some people in this group know me better than other ones. I get into like disagreements with people sometimes about pH because I hear people say all the time that you just want to alkalize your body. And of course, I argue with them because you don't actually want your body to be completely alkaline. Your blood is stable. You want your stomach to be full of hydrochloric acid. You want your urinary system and your reproductive system and your colon to be acidic. And all I hear from people is like, you need to alkalize. So where does that, if lymph is also acidic, where does that idea that disease doesn't live in an alkaline environment come from? Why are people so obsessed with the idea of alkalizing?
Because the people that promote that point of view that you described so well are marketers, not biologists, not scientists, not anatomists. They're marketers, and they're selling alkaline water.
Yeah, okay.
And the biggest perpetrator of myths about this is Robert Young, who is all over the place and has written 5 books, a very famous guy. He's done some good research, but he got caught up in this pattern that we've seen with many promoters selling alkaline water and for $1,000 machines that give you alkaline water and acid water and whatever the heck you want. And it's just a myth. It's just a myth. It's not based on science. And what Alexis said is accurate. The real science goes back to Reams. After Dr. Donsbach in the 1980s, the holistic health marketers started going gangbusters because there was such a big profit margin being made on life extension vitamins. And then they got into alkaline stuff and they just went gangbusters because the profit margin was so high. So here's the problem with saying all alkalinity is bad, though. Alkaline water does help some people, especially people who are too acid. But there's no good research that I'm aware of on exactly which kind of biochemistry is always benefited by alkaline water and whose is not. That is a more involved research than the alkaline water promoters have done. So there's myths and there's a lack of research, and your critical thinking is just indispensable in this area. Any other questions? Okay, so back a bit on the rotating liver thing. We want to talk about how the liver stores toxins, because the liver is the big chemistry factory of the body, and it's the main handler of toxins. Does anybody know how the liver handles toxins besides Alexis? Okay, well, let's get into that a bit. So if you're the liver and there's a toxin in the body, you go, oh my gosh, I've got to neutralize that toxin so it can be safely eliminated from the body. That's how the liver thinks. So it looks at the toxin, it says, is it excessively acid or excessively alkaline? And if it is, it neutralizes it with its store of acid and alkaline minerals. If it can't neutralize it, it stores it in the liver until it has enough of the right minerals to neutralize it. And this is where the story gets more interesting. So what happens is, when you're a child and you have tantrums and you're angry at your mom because you didn't get your Batman toy or whatever it was, you can go into a real tantrum and create some really acid toxins that the liver might not have the minerals to neutralize. And those get stored in the liver. And then the liver has to wait until it has the most neutral calcium to detoxify these most acid toxins. And we're going to pause on that for a moment, because first we want to see these toxins. And you can't see them directly, but you can visualize them pretty well on clients, especially if you ask for the light, ask for the presence of the client's own higher guidance to be present. So we're going to do a little visualization here. And if you want to participate, you can close your eyelids and you make a copy of your own body standing up. And you stand behind this copy of your own body that's standing up. And as you stand behind this copy of your standing body, you go down on both knees. And you will find, if you look up, that you're looking at the underside and the back of your own liver as best as you are able to visualize it. And as you look at the underside and the back of your own liver, you may perceive darkness there, heaviness, or both. If you perceive neither darkness nor heaviness, you can celebrate because your liver is in good shape. But if you do this with clients, sooner or later, you're going to find clients who have a lot of stuff stored in the liver, and it shows up more in the bottom and the back. Now, before you start, if you have darkness or heaviness in your liver, before you start asking to release it, you want to check with your self-testing if the liver has the right minerals to detoxify those toxins before they're released. Because you don't want excessively acid or excessively alkaline toxins released from your liver before it's able to neutralize them. So that's a safety consideration. So these are powerful tools. Be careful. Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. If we're going to help the liver do this, and let's say it has the minerals it needs, why hasn't it done it already?
Oh, no, it will do it. No, if I'm the liver, and one of the kind of toxins that the liver will store is drug residues. And the drug residues can be highly alkaline or highly acidic, though I'm not an expert on this. So if the liver has, say there's a highly, what we mainly want to get to is most people have mostly highly acid toxins stored in the liver they can't get rid of. And I was a good example. And so the most alkaline calcium that the liver needs to detox these is calcium hydroxide, which is lime. And some of you may know that that's dangerous to deal with. You're not supposed to be dealing with lime. It's not biocompatible. So you need a biocompatible form of calcium hydroxide. Well, it just so happened that Carrie Reams made a formula exactly like that in the 30s. And it's sold by the Daily Manufacturing Company. And it's called CAL, C-A-L hyphen Roman numeral 2, Reams formula. And it's not expensive. You can get 100 capsules for $9.95. And I will put this thing here in the chat, which it is not in the chat. I can put it in there. And you can play around with that. This company is the only company that makes it. So when you see it on Amazon, it's still coming from Daily. And they have not raised their prices in like 10 years. And so it's a blessing that they keep running out and yet haven't raised their prices. And that's kind of the story on that. Any more questions about the liver getting the right calcium?
Well, I mean, is it because there's an emotional block that's stopping the liver from doing this? Because that's what we're doing, is we're releasing the blocks. So whatever form they are, stress.
It's a good question. It's a good question. It's not quite like that. It's dumber than that. Not that you're dumb, but what you're thinking about is a lot dumber than that. So let me say here something I haven't said yet, is that our digestive system functions at the level of intelligence of a 3-year-old. A 3-year-old. It's very linear. It's very sequential. If it runs into a block, it just gets stuck. That's why we have a conscious self to help our inner child out, because our digestive system, our inner 3-year-old, often gets stuck. So if the liver has acid toxins to release and it doesn't have calcium hydroxide, it can't release them. They get stored. That's it. There's no second opinion here. That's all it can do. So the best experiment you can do, if you think you have that situation, and a lot of people with arthritis and other problems have an over acid situation, is to spend $10, get some, Cal-2, take it and see if things start clearing up for you, which is what happened to me. And what can happen that's very positive is you can break out in a rash. And that means the liver says, holy crow, hallelujah. I've now got what I need to release the toxins I was storing all those years. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Let's get it out as fast as we can. And it's common to break out in a rash from like your chest down to your knees. And that's a healing symptom, healing sign. So if you take the Cal-2 and that doesn't happen, then I guess you didn't need it. So that's kind of the story on that. Any other question? Yeah.
So we're not actually resolving this energetically. We need the supplement.
Yes. This is from the heart level down, where the liver lives. We're not dealing with multidimensional consciousness. We're dealing with a 3-year-old who thinks linear, sequentially, and gets stuck. Only from the heart level up are we thinking multidimensional and releasing, childhood traumas that then create in a physical healing. But when you start dealing with the liver, because there can be trapped toxins, you want to make sure that you're not releasing stuff the liver can't detox. This is the great wisdom in homeopathy of making sure the exit pathways are open before you give a remedy that's likely to have a big effect. Alexis, do you have anything to add on that point?
I mean, you've got me thinking about not layers of consciousness from the heart down. I don't know that I would agree with that. I mean, that's so different from what we learn in other modalities, or what we are
Yeah.
taught in TCM, or what we would think about when working with chakra systems. So, I mean, I understand that we need both. Like, we need to have the chemical components in place for the body to be able to do chemical processes. Like, there's no substitute for good nutrition if that's the issue. But is it really that there's never, like, it's such a traditional thing, even from a Touch for Health level, to say something like, oh well, anger and resentment get caught in the liver, or something like that, right? How do you balance those two ideas?
Um, I'm not sure we disagree. What I'm trying to convey, and laughter yoga was the start of this idea tonight, is that our, our frequency from head to foot is a continuum. It's a range. Higher frequency up high, lower frequencies down low. If you don't believe that, I think you really haven't looked at your etheric body much, because that's really true. So it means that higher in the body, we have more flexibility, more neuroplasticity about going in the past and the future, and all sorts of things, and switching between modalities and dimensions, and the body and emotions. But the lower you go in the body, the more that is replaced as you're going towards the physical and the etheric body and immune system. That's replaced with a very kind of clunky linear sequential mindset. And if you don't believe me, I encourage you to look at more videos on YouTube of animations at the cellular level, how things work, how the mitochondria produce energy and so on. You'll see that it's very, they're like toys, little gadgets that run at the molecular level. And I'm not sure that's the latest research, but that's a lot of the recent research. And so both are true. Both are true. Liver, anger lives in the liver, blah, blah, blah. That's true. But also what I'm saying is true too at the level of the immune system self. So both are true. And this is a big issue to accept, that two things can be true at the same time, or three things can be true at the same thing, or at the same time, or 5, 10 things can be true at the same time. They're all true. All these frequencies work together synergistically. Each level of intelligence has its own level of intelligence, its own system of working through things, its own way of processing. And so as we go up and down in the body, we see these different levels of processing. And the lower we go in the body, the more we have to slow down and take it easy and be gentle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, that's what's really lacking in most neuroscience, that they want to treat everything like it's up here. Oh yeah, you do this, you do that, you do this, do that, you fix this, do that, yeah, take the MRI, blah, 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 take the drug, take the surgery, blah, blah, blah. But as you go lower in the body and you got to talk to the inner child, you really got to slow down. I don't think any of us would disagree with that.
So it would,
yeah.
If during that visualization process, someone was perceiving some heaviness or some blockage in the liver, it would be appropriate, using the tools that we have, to ask whether this is a chemical imbalance or whether this is an emotional imbalance or some combination of the two. And
that's an excellent question. Excellent question.
Balance
Yeah.
the stress, right?
Yeah, I agree with that completely. You may be looking at the bottom of the back of the liver, see darkness or heaviness, and go, well, I wonder what that is. And you'd be wrong to assume it's one or the other without checking. Yeah. What's the priority here? What's the priority here? Do I need to release the mental, emotional aspects of this first? Or do I need to release the chemical toxins here first? Oh, it's this one to release first. I see. And then the other one will follow. Or maybe if I do the first one, the second one will take care of itself. right? Okay. All right, so
I'm sorry, I have another question.
go ahead.
If you're doing something like a liver cleanse or a coffee enema or something like that, is the liver, I mean, I've done a lot of those and it looked pretty effective. But do they not work if you don't have the minerals?
It's a really good question, Lisa, and I hadn't thought of mentioning that, but let's get into it. I'm in favor of coffee use as an enema. I'm also in favor of small amounts of coffee use in place of Ritalin. And I don't think that's harmful at all to the liver. But what happens is that you could do all the coffee enemas, you can do 100 coffee enemas, and if the liver hasn't received sufficiently alkaline calcium to neutralize very acidic wastes, no amount of coffee enemas is going to help the liver get rid of those wastes, because it won't do it, because it's not safe. It's only safe once they're neutralized. So the coffee enema is good for cleansing. It's more stimulant. It's more stimulant. Like alpha lipoic acid, it stimulates the liver, like it irritates it, is what the word Mimi Castellanos used for me. Coffee and the alpha lipoic acid, they stimulate the liver, they irritate it enough that it kind of shakes itself off and sheds stuff that it feels safe to release. But some things aren't safe to release until they're neutralized. Does that help? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And but it sort of tells me, wow, all these people are doing all this work and it may not be working because of that.
I like that very much. And the way I would put it is, a lot of people are taking a lot of coffee enemas and doing a lot of health things without addressing their own mental, emotional issues. And so they're somewhat like there's a famous joke about that, but I don't think I'll get into it right now. This is why we want to help neuroplasticity and neuroscience evolve, to start by talking about self-connection and talking about the child within, including the child within in discussions of neuroplasticity. If you're talking about neuroplasticity, don't leave home without the inner child. Yeah, don't even begin without the inner child, because it's just leading into a Frankenstein kind of science if you don't include the inner child. And I'm really serious about that. Okay, anything else? Otherwise, we're going on to lemons. So lemons, lemon water, lemon juice is the biggest friend that the liver has. Hydrochloric acid, Reams believe the hydrochloric acid was made by the liver, not by the stomach. It's made by the liver and then it's sent to the stomach. I think Reams could be right. He wasn't able to prove this experimentally, and there's no budget for that to prove it currently. But I think he may be proven right eventually. But it kind of makes sense, because on the right we have the yang. The yang is kind of acid, and on the left we have the stomach, pancreas, spleen making those alkaline enzymes. So it kind of makes sense that the liver would be involved in or making hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid is anionic, which is kind of a Reams term that I don't want to get too deeply in. But so is lemon juice. Lemon juice is also anionic. Now, apple cider vinegar is not. I think all the vinegars, including apple cider vinegar, are cationic. So this is an electrical term. Some people do say that apple cider vinegar is anionic, and it may be. So we're in a realm that research hasn't really resolved yet. But what we want to say is that because lemon juice is like hydrochloric acid, and it's anionic, and it's very liver compatible, the liver can do wonders with it. So anytime there's a digestive insufficiency, which is a very useful phrase, we used to say digestion weakness, lemon juice and water is the first thing to try. If you're having problems digesting meals, lemon juice and water is the first thing to try. You want to be careful though, because lemon juice is very medicinal and it can be so effective that you have a problem with it. It's also true that maybe 20% of the population is slightly allergic to lemons. And so you'll find them you'll find clients, if you recommend it for everybody, you're going to find clients who don't do well on it or have a problem with it. So you have to check all these things out. This is why we're studying anatomy and physiology, so we can make fewer errors with clients. And these are things that are worth knowing. Lemon juice and water is probably a better and more effective digestive aid than hydrochloric acid tablets or pancreatic enzymes of every kind. Of every kind. Lemon juice and water should be tried first, probably because it's cheaper. And also don't make the lemon juice and water too strong. Try it, try lower concentrations if you're doing this with clients or yourself. See how that works. If that doesn't work, try a higher concentration, play around with it. But I think you'll find that that's at least as effective as digestive enzymes of all kinds. So not a lot of research done on this yet, but I think this will eventually be proven true. That's about all I have to say about the liver. Any questions before we move on to the gallbladder? Okay, we're going to go on some more. So, class, who can describe to me how the gallbladder meridians run on the surface of the body? How do they run?
Can you say that again? How does
Yes.
it run on the
How do
surface?
the gallbladder meridians run on the surface of our body?
Oh, the meridian.
Yeah, where are they? On our feet?
Go, Hannah, it's your time to shine.
Yes, that's what I.
No, I just watched 4 of us do this.
Go ahead, Hannah. Where are the gallbladder meridians?
From the corner of the eyebrows and back and forth across the head and then straight down the sides.
Yes, they are, and they go all the way down to the second toe, I
Fourth
believe,
toe.
the toe next to the little toe, something
Yeah,
like
that
that.
one.
Yeah, so that's true. Now, here's a visualization that came to me as a gift, and I'll share it with you. Let's look at our left gallbladder meridian. The left gallbladder meridian, if we take my left arm away, basically runs down the left side of the body, all the way from the side of the head, all the way to the side of the foot, the left foot. It runs down the side of the body. The right does the same, the side of the body. This is why the TCM people say, if you have joint problems, knee, shoulder, ankle problems, the gallbladder meridians are almost always involved. They run down the side of the body. They're involved with all those joints, not the vertebral joints, but knee, ankle, shoulder joints. So, in what I used to do a lot with clients, I haven't done it recently, is I'll check the color of the meridian. So if they have a problem with their gallbladder and their own higher guidance says, the gallbladder meridians, they need some attention, I'll check the color, I'll check the direction of flow of the gallbladder meridian, and I'll check the color of it. Is it too hot or too cold? And if it's disturbed, we'll change the color of the gallbladder meridian. And an easy way to picture this is with a paint roller. So now they have screwy paint rollers, but when the paint roller was first invented, I really should have one here to show you, shouldn't I? They're about 2 inches in diameter, about 10 inches long. And you could get a pan of paint and roll your roller in the paint, and then you could roll the roller on the wall, up and down the wall, paint the wall. Okay. And in your imagination, working with clients, if you need to change the color, you can get your paint color of the correct color, and you can dip your roller in it. And on the left side of the body, you can roll the paint roller down the left side of the body, ignoring the left arm, all the way down from the top of the head down to the side of the left foot. And then you can do the same on the right side. And this is a very effective visualization, I find, for addressing imbalances in the liver meridian and giving the client an easy visualization that they can do to correct their own gallbladder meridians. Any questions before we move on? That's kind of, but I wasn't really expecting many questions. Just another lore here. Okay, so still with the gallbladder. Does anybody know about what pirates and ninjas reflect in our psyche? Pirates and ninjas. Okay, I guess not. So if you look on Google, Google has 6.9 million pages for pirates and ninjas in quotes. And a lot of discussion on that. So what concerns us here is that they're kind of in a polarity. The pirates are more resonant with our liver, and the ninjas are more resonant with our gallbladder. So the pirate expression of our liver is big and loud, and they blow up whole ships, and they sink the ships, and they think, whoopee, that's great. And they say, avast and ahoy, me hearties, and shiver me timbers. And they throw themselves bodily into battle with reckless abandon, heedless of danger to life and limb, intoxicated with the thrill of battle. The pirates live for the excitement and action. And this is the liver psyche. This is how the liver, this is the talents of the liver. So the ninja expression is more resonant with the gallbladder. The ninja is hidden away under that liver where you can't see it. It's the dark one, the quiet one. And the ninja is the silent killer, where the pirate shoots a loud blunderbuss at anything moving. You never hear the ninja until he uses a silent, swift sword. The ninja is not extravagant. He has a small piece of paper with a short list of named individuals who have to die and who are marked for assassination, preferably secretly, stealthily, with only a red glove left at the scene of the crime as a signature. And back to the pirates have a parrot on their shoulder. And what does the parrot do? The parrot uses foul language to pointedly snipe at his intended targets. Targets the pirate claims trying to get rid of, trying to subjugate. Yeah. So the contrast of pirates and ninjas can be very useful metaphors for visualizing the psychic functions of the liver and the gallbladder. Any questions? There is more on that in a couple of my books, which at some point when I circulate a written version of this, I will put in the notes. Okay, so we're at 6 o'clock. I have, how much more do I have to go here? I was going to talk about liver attacking spleen, but let's check and see if people want to go beyond 6 o'clock or not. If not, we'll just pick up with this next week. So class, do you want to keep going or should we stop for tonight?
I'd like to keep going.
There's a vote for that. Oh, there's a couple votes for that. Alexis, are you okay with that? Or what do you want to do here? I think it makes more sense to complete the liver and then stop the liver gallbladder topics. So let's do that. So maybe it'll take another 10 minutes. I don't know, something like that. Okay, so thank you for that. And let's see if I can get myself organized here again. I'll be collywobbled. So of course, the last topic here is liver attacking spleen. Does anybody know what liver attacking spleen means? Alexis, do you want to say anything about that, or Hannah? Liver attacking spleen.
I'm imagining it has something to do with pirates, but I don't know exactly what.
Does it have to do with pirates? Not directly, not directly. Yeah, so maybe it's more esoteric than I thought.
I have a secondary question, which is,
Go
does
ahead.
it actually have to do with virus?
Yeah, go ahead. No? Okay, I thought you were going to say something. So, no, so liver attacking spleen is one of the most famous TCM diagnoses. I'm not making that up. It's really, you can look it up. There's just tons of this stuff. What do I want to say about this? I have all these notes here, but I think something new is trying to come through here. If we start from self-connection, then we have the liver and the gallbladder on the right side in harmony with the stomach, pancreas, and spleen on the left side. And they're working together as teammates. When this is out of balance, it's almost always because the yang liver is beating up on the weaker yin, stomach, pancreas, and spleen. Now, in the ancient days, when TCM was being formulated, they mostly talked about this as liver attacking stomach. And I think that might have been true. But I think since World War II, it's much more, because humanity has evolved a great deal since 5,000 years ago. We're not the same as we were back then. So now we mostly deal with liver attacking pancreas. The most sensitive physiology we have on the left side is probably the aisles of Langerhans in our pancreas on the left side. There are only about 1 million cells. I think that's right. They're not many. Oh, 1,200 cells. 1,200 cells is what I have here. And the pancreas is, of course, much smaller than the liver. The pancreas, the way I like to visualize it, it's like a literal dog's tongue, the tongue of a dog. It's a taste function. The pancreas is a taste function, and it looks like the tongue of a dog taken out of a dog and put in your body. That's a pretty accurate visualization. So when the right and left aren't getting along, and the liver is attacking the pancreas, those aisles of Langerhans, they get the worst of it. And they're most easily harmed by the liver. And this is a big reason that diabetes is such a big issue. Because as most of you probably know, if you don't have the aisles of Langerhans making insulin, you have to take synthetic insulin. So undoing the pattern of liver attacking spleen, liver attacking stomach, liver attacking pancreas is a big issue in reversing diabetes and all the mental emotional issues that pertain. Related to this is the phrase, the war within, W-A-R, the war within. You can Google it, and there's quite a bit of interesting things said about it. It's mostly, you see it mostly in terms of immune disorders, autoimmune disorders. But liver attacking spleen is probably the easy way to learn about that. The war within is liver attacking spleen. That's the easy way to start learning about that. Any questions? Otherwise, I'm going to try and wind this up.
I have a question. I've worked with a person who has type 1 diabetes. We know when she got it. We know it was a series of poison ivy reactions after the MMR vaccine, and then steroids, and then boom. And I've tried so many different ways of doing this, but she doesn't have those cells anymore. So is it at all possible to reinstate that, the insulin, these cells you're talking about?
It's a compassionate question. I agree with those health practitioners who say any cells in the body can be restored if you get the diet and the pH correct. So I think that's really crucial. So a lot of people are onto the diet, getting the diet right. But if the pH of their lymph is way acid or way alkaline, you can't rebuild any cells that you want. If you want to rebuild cells, you've got cancer, you've got diabetes, something else you want to rebuild, you've got to get that. You've got to at least pay some attention to regulating and managing your pH of your lymph. This is nature's plan for human beings to manifest optimal health. That is the plan. We can't regulate oxygen, but we can regulate the pH of the lymph. Can't regulate our blood, we can regulate the lymph. So does that answer your question?
Well, it sounds like, even though, medical world says there are no more of these cells, the autoimmune disease has destroyed them all. Are you saying that we could resurrect some, or is that?
It's really a case study. It's really a case study. And I would say the only generalization that makes any sense for me is if you get the pH of your lymph right and you get the diet worked out, that the body will have everything it needs to make the cells it needs. It will help to remove the mental emotional disturbances, such as the right side attacking the left side. But other than that, the body, all you can do is give the body its best opportunity to heal itself, right? And beyond that, it's really the client's issue, not yours.
Can
Does
I
that
offer,
answer your question?
can I offer one more thing, Lisa?
Go ahead.
Type 1 diabetes is a spectrum. So we're not used to thinking of it that way. We are used to thinking of you have beta cells that are making insulin or you don't. But actually, they will diagnose someone as having type 1 diabetes if they're not making enough to be able to keep themselves going. So it depends on, I did a long-term case study because we had a dear friend actually living with us for like a couple of years who was type 1 diabetic, and he had been diagnosed when he was 11. And when I started working with him, so he would take two different types of insulin. Most type 1 diabetics will take a basal, which is like just what they take that's steady every day because that's what their body needs just to function. And then they take a short acting one that is in relation to how many carbohydrates they eat, right? And what we found was that when I started working with him, he was constantly kind of going into these weird hypoglycemic states. And he was asking, Like, how is it? I think I'm calculating properly. I don't think it's possible that I keep overshooting how much insulin I'm giving. What's happening? And we eventually sent him in and had him tested and found out that his basal had changed. And it changed several times. Where after we had been working with it steadily with diet and with kinesiology, he actually
Excuse me,
ended up taking.
His body temperature, his basal body temperature?
No, they call it the basal insulin, but it's based on your basal metabolic
Basal
rate,
insulin.
right? So it's what is calculated for him. It changed, and he got to a point where he was taking half as much of that kind of insulin as he used to, and then was taking almost none of the short acting because we were controlling his diet fairly rigidly, so he wasn't eating a lot of carbohydrates. But I mean, it was a huge difference in the amount of medication he was taking. Like, it was crazy. And I believe that if we had continued working with that, we might have been able, like, could we have gotten him off it? I don't know. I doubt it, because there's definitely an impairment in basal function. But like, there's still some cells that were obviously still making some insulin, right? So it might be useful for your client to know where they fit on that scale. Because if there's any cells that are still doing stuff, you can do stuff. That's all. And I'll shush now. Sorry.
I like it. I
Yeah.
like it.
Thank you. I
I think-
appreciate that.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I think this is a good place to stop. And next week, we'll talk about solutions to liver attacking spleen. Any more questions? Anything else? Now, when we stop the recording, I'll stay on if there's more chit chat. But Alexis, I think we're ready to stop the recording.
We can do that. And then everything else amazing that happens is off the record. And if you want to be part of the conversations that are off the record, then you need to sign up for the classes, and we will see you next week.